My name is Dustin Browder, and I'm the game director on StarCraft 2. We are absolutely blown away by what's been happening in esports. When we first were working on StarCraft 2, and even as late as 2009 and early 2010, we really had no idea what was going to happen. We kind of hoped that maybe some place, somewhere, we could go with 50 or 60 guys and maybe watch a match of StarCraft 2, especially here in the United States. We knew that in Korea it had a chance of being bigger than that, but we thought here in the US or in Europe, maybe if we get 50 or 60 guys together, somewhere, that would be awesome, and that would be a big win. That would be, people coming together for esports. How exciting would that be? And then as 2010, we launched, and then as that year got older, we started to hear reports from places like MLG. And we started to see the GSL, and people would say things. Well, they had an event, and they had 50 seats, and it was standing room only. Well, that's pretty exciting. That's pretty cool. Standing room only, 50. Well, that's what we were hoping for, but it sounds like it's a little bigger than that. And then we would hear, well, they had an event, and there was 100 seats, and it was standing room only. And we're like, that's pretty cool. And it kept growing and growing and growing until now we've got these ridiculous venues with Anaheim Convention Center, or whoever else, all over the world, right? Huge, huge venues. There's places in Poland, everywhere. And we had just thousands and thousands of people coming to watch StarCraft 2. We had no expectation that our fans would come out in these kinds of numbers, to support StarCraft 2. So it's hugely exciting. And in terms of where it's going, like I say, we're in the dark. Like we thought, this was going to be way smaller than this. And every time I think it can't get any bigger, it gets bigger, right? So we're not the visionaries here saying, we have this master plan and we know what's going to happen and here's the next step exactly for eSport. We continually to be blown away by what the fans and our community are building around StarCraft 2. It's super exciting. Well, we do everything we can for these guys, to make sure that they've got a product that they can use and something that's viable for them. We go to these events as much as we possibly can. I was at MLG Anaheim here a few weeks ago. We've had people go out to the GSL. I think we've seen Mike Morhaime buying pizza for the audience of a GSL game at one point. So we go and visit these events as much as we can. We do everything we can to continue to support them. We're also running, our World Championship matches with a lot of these, people all over the place are working with us to, create some additional ways for maybe some of our less known players to sort of prove themselves, a chance to become pro. And so we do everything we can to sort of engage these guys and provide the best product we possibly can and to support them as best as we can figure out how to support them, because the work they do is amazing. We're almost just fans at this point of everything that the community's doing. It's just hugely exciting. No. There's no struggle there at all. Answer. Mike Morhaime is a huge StarCraft fan. He's a huge esports fan. That's my boss's boss. Frank Pierce is my boss, and he's a huge StarCraft fan and a big esports fan. These guys, are going to these shows with us. They're seeing what's happening out there. There's no question that what we're doing with the community, what the community is doing, is incredible. There's no conflict, right? There's no concern about this. We've got Heart of the Swarm, something we're building towards. We're going to be excited to roll that out in beta here fairly soon, and we've got a great product that we continue to support as we've supported all of our products always. We did patches for Warcraft 3, even though it wasn't as big an esport as this. It's not really important to us. It's important that our fans get the support they deserve, so that when we go to sell another product, they will come back and go, those guys supported that product in a way that I think is proper and correct, and we're going to come back for it. And so that's always been our value, and that's still our value today. Well, we did build the game for esports, and that's an important distinction. I think Warcraft 3 was also built for esports, but obviously, coming from the design legacy of StarCraft, we had a bit of a cheat. We had an advantage where Warcraft 3 was something very, very new. But I think also Warcraft 3 helped to build esports that's created some of the experience. Esports was built in Brood War for us, and then it continued through Warcraft 3, and it's continuing to grow now, into StarCraft 2. And so everything that we've done for this game from bottom up was for, in many ways, esports. Even, I know this is going to sound crazy, but even some of the story elements are sort of controlled by esports, because the game is designed as an esport first. We have to do a lot of additional work to make the campaign experience feel really good and different, because the campaign is not an esport. So we've got to do a lot of extra work to make that a viable experience. So for us, I don't know where esports is going. I don't even know exactly what it is, except it's cool, right? Except it's a new type of entertainment that the world has never seen before, and that is what we do here, right? We try to create cool entertainment experiences, and so that's exciting to us, to be part of a phenomenon that is growing out there, that is a new type of entertainment, a new way to experience video games, and you can do it through StarCraft 2. It's something we're very proud to have a chance to be part of. Well, we've done a lot of stuff fairly recently with the community. We obviously had a map contest recently, which rolled a lot of our, the community maps got rolled into the ladder, and that will definitely continue going forward. We'll always be using, maps, from, the GSL guys, the maps from the NLG guys, maps from different tournaments all over the world. We've been using some of those as much as we can. We just recently did a lot of work with Day 9 when he introduced and, a lot of our did some shoutcasts for Heart of the Swarm. Battle reports that we put out. We're going to continue to reach out to people in the community as much as we can to sort of, make them more part of the process, right? Make them more part of the experience. And that's, we're fans of these guys. I don't know who was more excited to meet. I was excited to meet Day 9. He was excited to meet me. We were just geeking out, right? But and I always get hugely excited when I see Tasteless and Artosis. Those guys, I see them on my TV almost every day, so they seem like celebrities, to me. And so it's hugely exciting to meet those guys. And so we love to engage with the community as much as we can and figure out ways that we can sort of include them in the process, include them more directly than just feedback, right? Which is clearly hugely useful to us. But at the same time, it's valuable to us, I think, to be able to engage with them more directly. I think there's a couple memorable moments for me from StarCraft in the last few years. I think one of the moments that I would have said, a year ago was my favorite moment, was watching, it was in a GSL match, and it was against a PROTOSS player. I don't remember who the PROTOSS player was, but it was an ST. And he sent an Overlord across the map very early, parking right outside a fast expand from this PROTOSS player. And I remember, was it any pro? And I remember the casters were talking about this, like, what's he doing, what's he doing? He's teching to lair, why is he teching to lair? And then so he teched to lair and he cut gas. And so everybody's like, there's nothing, what's he doing teching to lair? And I'm running around like, there's nothing on lair that doesn't require gas. This is going nowhere. I have no idea where this is going. I'm like, this is nesty, he's gotta have a plan. And they can't figure it out, and I'm sitting there, I can't figure it out. And then he drops the creep from the Overlord right in front of the Nexus, and he brings up some drones, he starts to build some Sunkens. And we had talked about this strategy in 2008 or 2009, not specifically that strategy, but the idea of using offensive spine crawlers because they can be picked up and moved, and the possibility of somehow doing something with that. We thought maybe it'd be more through Nidus Worms, like you'd use the Nidus Worm, get into his base, maybe get the queen out there, drop some creep, and then start this kind of harassment. But just to see him punishing that kind of greed with that unbelievably cool move was super exciting because we'd sort of given up, we'd never see it. I think my best moment, though, for me would have been at BLIZZCON last year, where we were watching the finals, and the crowd was so insanely loud, shouting MMA and just going absolutely nuts. And there was literally, I think, maybe 6,000, 7,000 people in that one room, and in another room. They had opened up another room to watch this finals on. And the floor of the arena was covered in beer and chips and old hot dogs. It was disgusting. It was like every sporting event I've ever been to, right? Every glorious sporting event where the place is a mess, and it just, everybody's just so excited and no one cares, and everybody's just screaming at the top of their lungs at everything that happens on the screen. Just absolutely an incredible community esports sporting event kind of experience. And that was, a moment for me where I was like, this is insane. How did we get here? This is not my 50 guys in a room. This is something much bigger than we'd ever imagined possible, and it was absolutely fantastic. So for WCS, one of the things we're really trying to get across, we're trying to create an environment where a lot of guys who aren't pros have an opportunity maybe to show off what they can do, maybe become pros, and to provide an opportunity for some areas of the world, some areas of our country, wherever, where they don't have quite the access to tournament play, to get that access to tournament play, to show off what we can do, so to create some local heroes, to create an opportunity for truly an international championship where these guys can really come together, and where people are hopefully tempted to try, who otherwise would be too fearful. I certainly, if I was any good, I certainly wouldn't be able to go and take on, the Korean players, but maybe I could play somewhere in a US tournament. That'd be kind of fun. And we feel like the tournament play is core to what StarCraft is. It's core to what our community has turned StarCraft into. And we want to provide a place for many, many more players to experience that tournament feeling and that tournament joy all over the world. And so that's really one of the important things we're trying to get out of it. Well, that's hugely exciting for us to be able to see, right, the sort of the local players who are probably, there's many amazing players all over the world who never get that opportunity to participate in these tournaments, to sort of try to, come on guys, give it a shot and try to pull them out and see what they can do. And you know, it's going to be hugely exciting for us to watch these finals, to see what happens. But I think that is exactly where we're going for, is that chance for that new player to step up on the stage and show what he can do, and to find some new talent, and to really give an opportunity to these players all over the world who don't usually get this kind of chance. I don't know if that's the reasoning, but it's certainly nice for us, right? It certainly gives our team, who would ordinarily be really focused on BLIZZCON, an opportunity to work on that event. I don't know for sure. I believe so. I think that'll be the plan, right? Is to hopefully we do a good job. Hopefully the fans like it. Hopefully it's a success, right? And it's something we want to continue year after year. Absolutely. You definitely have a hope of seeing automated tournaments. It's something we're very excited to be able to get in at some point. The list, as I think everyone knows, for things we want to do to BattleNet at this point is fairly extensive, but that's definitely on the list. It's a question of timing for us more than anything else, because you know, I'd love to see automated tournaments. I'd also love to see player-defined tournaments, you know, so that maybe all of us could get together and define a best-of-8 tournament tonight and play, right? And that I think would be hugely. We can kind of do it now with a piece of paper. We can scribble it down and kind of make it happen. But would it be nice if there was a system, and if there was, you know, maybe all of us, you know, maybe if you two were the two guys in the end, that all of us should be invited to watch live while you were playing because we were in the tournament. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I think we could really do to be really exciting for both automated tournaments and sort of user-defined tournaments. And I think it'd be just a great add to the game. This actually goes in the other way too, by the way. I don't know if everybody generally knows this, but because the way the ladder system works, it's sort of a bell curve in skill level, right? The silver, gold, and platinum divisions tend to be the tightest divisions in terms of skill. Gold obviously being the tightest. If you're in gold and you meet another gold player, chances are you're very close to one another in skill level. For anybody who's in the diamond, and then even worse, the master and grandmaster, the variation in skill can be considerable, but it even affects our bronze players on the other end. The bronze players also go through a thing where they may have improved substantially, but they're not seeing any growth significantly season after season in their progress because they're still in bronze. Right. But they may have really actually stepped up their game quite a bit. So it is sort of a problem the way we've done it. We've discussed several possible solutions. Do we want to further subdivide the leagues? Do we want to say you're bronze 10 versus bronze 9 versus bronze 8? Systems like this might be something we consider, but yeah, it affects both ends of the spectrum, and it's kind of annoying if you're in those positions. I don't know, honestly, if the grandmaster players have that much to complain about. They are grandmaster players, you know, and at that point, you know, your rating on that ladder is fairly, you know, accurate to your relative skill. But the bronze guy, who's #1 in his league, and you know, next time he just goes into a bronze league, I think that's potentially very frustrating. And even the diamond and master players, there's enough fluctuation there that it doesn't feel. It's difficult to gauge your progress, and which is sort of the challenge of our entire skill-based system. Like, I've been watching my position deteriorate, and a lot of guys in the office as well, as the community just gets better, and we're just not keeping up with how good they are, right? I was diamond, now I've fallen to plat, right? And God help me if I fall further, I may, right? Because the community gets better and better and better all the time. But yeah, so that can be very demoralizing as well, right? So if you're sitting there and you're a diamond player and you suddenly fall to plat, you may have actually gotten better. You may be a better player than when you were a diamond player, but the community's leveled around you. It is absolutely right now a pure skill-based system that ranks you relative to everyone in your region as to how well you're doing. That is beautiful in its simplicity, wonderful for competition, and fairly demoralizing if you start to lose ground. So we talk about it frequently, and honestly, I don't know exactly what the right answer is. I love the fact that it says this is not a grind-based system. This is not something you just play a bunch of games and then you get to be diamond. And we've talked about that. Maybe we should make bronze to diamond just a grind system, and then master grandmasters for the really skilled players. So maybe anybody can get to be diamond eventually. And that seems kind of fun until you realize that once you see that, you're not going to value diamond that highly because you know anybody could be there. The reason you want diamond or anything above where you're at is because you know it has value because the system has integrity. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I totally agree with your concern about the poor bronze guy and the high-end guys, the diamonds, the masters and grandmasters not having enough resolution, and that's something we definitely talk about frequently. This is a big discussion that we're still battling with frequently. The original goal of the entire system was to try to get you to focus on, your position in the ladder, your 1 to 100 position in whatever league and division that you were in. And the hopes would be that would be an experience that would allow players to see some progress. For the most part, your true skill is not going to change that much. And so we felt like that was going to be even more demoralizing experience than what we have now, as you watch your true skill cap and then you watch it never move. I'm not sure at this point we all completely agree with that. That's under discussion, right? Whether that's which one's the more demoralizing experience, right? Going into a division that might be a little too hard for you, or going into a division that's a little too easy for you, and suddenly you're number 1 or suddenly you're number 50. Is that a better experience than just seeing your trim MR, or seeing your trim MR and then realizing it never moves? Is that a worse experience? Or watching your MR drop because the community's leveled up around you? I'm not clear on what the most awful way to play StarCraft is, but we're going to find them all, apparently. But that's so I don't know. I don't know answer your question, but I think it's a fair comment, it's a fair concern, and it's something we debate frequently, whether we should just go weapons free on that and say, hey, here's what you're going to see, here's everything that it is, or if there's another way we can do it. I'm not really sure. But want it so badly. Like, I want to know. I play random all the time since I can't really afford to have a race bias. Even though I'm wearing a Terra shirt. Okay, let's talk about the Terra shirt. This is the shirt we got for Wings. I got one shirt. I didn't get a Zerg shirt. I didn't get a PROTOSS shirt. I will get a Zerg shirt when we play Heart of the Swarm. I've seen it. It's a glorious shirt. It's got Zerg stuff all over it. It's going to be awesome. After that, I'll be wearing the Zerg shirt a lot. Okay, that doesn't mean that we're buffing Zerg. Are you listening to me out there? It doesn't mean we're buffing Zerg. It means that's the shirt they gave me for shipping the product we shipped. All right, that's why I have the Terran shirt. So I play random a lot, but I would love to know, where am I winning and losing? Should I switch to Protoss? Is that my best race? Should I switch to Zerg or is ZVZ my worst matchup? I have this perception of what my worst matchup is, and then I can sometimes check my achievements. I can sometimes sort of ferret it out, like where I'm actually winning and losing matches, especially after I got enough games. I can go, oh no, actually Terran's my best race, I guess, or whatever it is, right, that particular month. But I'd love to see more of that stuff. I'd love to see details about what maps you lose on. All that stuff would be super huge and just awesome to have as a player. We do, and we do it infrequently. We wish we did it more, right? Like, we're not always aware of everything. There's so much. We do have a lot of guys watching lots of different parts of the game, because we're all passionate about sort of different areas of the experience, and checking stuff out. Like, I know our AI guy studies a lot of the AI mods that are out there right now and sees what they're doing so he can understand, so he can make sense out of it. But yeah, we absolutely are always looking for stuff that we can do. Usually for us, the challenge of integrating that stuff is sufficient that it blocks us from always being able to do everything we want to do, but it's always something we're excited to have the opportunity to do. Very soon. I've got a lot of practice at that one. Sorry. I don't know for sure. There are a number of variables in the air. There's balance concerns we still have. There's BattleNet concerns we're still trying to sort out. There's always other products like Diablos, and Diablo patches, and Mists of Pandaria, and all this other stuff flying around, which affects our ability to deploy something as huge as a beta. But it is something we're trying to get out very soon to you guys. We are very excited to get out. I think we're very close. We've got a bunch of great stuff. I can't wait to play in a live environment. So very soon. So typically what we do is we do a 3 to 6 month beta is usually our target goal. Again, I don't know for sure, but I would say that's the ballpark for when we would go between beta and launch. Later? I was going to say soon, but that seems wrong. Later, much later. Yeah, no idea. We're not even talking about what we're doing next. After we've got Heart of the Swarm. Whew, huge battle to get through that, right? Got to make sure that campaign is as great as it can possibly. Lots of BattleNet features have got to go in. Chris Siggety did a glorious blog post which sort of outlined our plan for Heart of the Swarm. Now we've got to execute on all of that. And then obviously we've got Legacy of the Void coming after that, which has challenges I can't even begin to figure out. What are we going to do for multiplayer from that? I have no idea right now what we're going to do for multiplayer. Hopefully we'll learn more in Heart of the Swarm to give us some ideas. We have tons and tons of features. I've talked about another one today. I wouldn't feel right not having some kind of tournament system, not having some type of better stats tracking, and the list goes on and on of things we want to do. So once all that gets done, then or close to being done, then I think we can start talking about what's next for Team 1. We are very aware that the metagame will do what the metagame is going to do. And as long as it's a fun experience, we're fine with that. And so we didn't have a specific metagame in mind for much of the development of Wings of Liberty. We got a sense for some of the very high-level concepts of how the metagame might develop towards the end of the beta. Not specific units, but things like Zerg units are generally going to be a little bit weaker because they're generally going to be expanding more often. Zerg 200 food armies are generally going to be a little bit softer than the other armies because they'll have the ability to store larvae and repop and potentially do a double wave hit to overrun their enemy. Also because they have the ability to tech switch. Again, little things like that, not specifics like, well, it's going to be Hellion Banshee against, none of that stuff, right? That stuff is all in the hands community and does change frequently, and we want it to change frequently. That's what keeps the game fresh, is the players discover new stats and new ways to make new strats, new ways to make this work. So what we try to do for the metagame is we try to provide units that we know are sound. We know this unit is good. We've tested it. We know it's viable. Will it be viable in the hands of a pro? Yeah. Will he use it? No way to know. Will he use it eventually? If it's a good unit, probably. Probably the metagame will cycle around, and whatever unit that is, we'll start to see more use. And that's the most control we have over it. We don't run the metagame, right? We just try to provide quality tools, and then we kind of see how it develops. And then if those tools break, if something is not functioning, if the metagame is either stagnating, or we really honestly believe there is no way for a player to get out of the mess we put him in, right? If we think there's no way for a PROTOSS player to counter this, then we'll do an adjustment, and that's where the balance fixes really come into play. It's never intentional. We did that during beta, of course, and for our team we do that all the time, because you might have a couple of weeks to test something, and so you really kind of overbalance it, so it goes, hey, this is real, and then you can control it after that, just see how it plays. For a live game, we don't do that. We don't do, hey, did you notice? Kinds of changes. We think we're making legitimate changes, and in many cases, it does seem to have the effect that you're describing, where the community goes, oh, they buffed it, and now it must be insane. And it's like, no, it's that much better. I don't probably do anything. It probably, in everything we tested, it made a little different, but not much. And it will cause a shift in the metagame, but that's an accident. That's the community, leaping on something in a way that we didn't really anticipate. Or maybe they're seeing, in fact, what we think is a small change is actually enormous, and that's also possible. But yeah, it's not us trying to manipulate the metagame. That's just sort of happening as it goes. I mean, in the sense that we're not trying to say, hey, check this unit out. We're just saying we think a queen needs a range of 5 to stop these Hellion pushes. We think these Hellion pushes are nuts. We think the Zerg don't have a legitimate response at this point, and we're going to make this change. We are more confident, I think, in our community than they are in themselves about their ability to find and break things. So we're going to wait and see if that is in fact true. We have had the occasional discussion where we think there's a way out and the community's not using it, and we think to ourselves, okay, they're going to need a buff. We think they have the tools, but they're not using them. But even then we resist those, usually for the most part, because we're usually surprised. I feel, and I'm not a pro player, right? So my opinion here only matters if we end up making a buff, right? And we often revert things, but I'm of the opinion right now that, especially when the mutas come into play, that PROTOSS could be doing a lot better even without an upgraded Phoenix. The Phoenix is a sharp counter in the hands of a pro, and they could be using that unit better in many scenarios that I've seen. And you can say, well, they don't have the money for it, they don't have the resources. I've seen PROTOSS players at 200 lose to Mass Muta. Yeah. I'm sure he had the money in there somewhere. You know what I mean? I'm not an expert. I don't know the specifics. I don't know when the build had to happen. I'm sure somewhere there he had a Stargate and he could have potentially built a couple of Phoenix, and he might have been able to find some money for that upgrade. Actually, 220, I know he had the money at the time for that fleet beacon and that upgrade. But again, I'm not the expert. I'm not the pro. My APM is not 300. So it is up to them to see where it goes. And so, generally speaking, we have found over the years, both in Brood War, in Warcraft 3, and now again in StarCraft, that when these ruts develop, sometimes the community breaks out. And we have a lot of confidence in these guys. These guys are good, and they want to win bad. There's a lot of money on the line, there's a lot of honor on the line, there's a lot at stake, and they're really pushing it. So we tend to take a more long-term view, and we try not to worry too much, but I respect the community's right to panic. That is their job, is to look at it and go, what are we going to do? This is broken. And it's that kind of energy that usually fixes the break, but we'll just have to watch and see. This is going to be unpopular. I think it's great. I think it's doing exactly what we want to the game in every possible way. Now, I'm still seeing Terrans do run-bys. I saw one on the GSL just the other day. An absolute run-by, 2 Hellions, 6 drones. You know, he's literally trading minerals for minerals at a benefit in terms of drones versus Hellions. And he's got drops. And he's got Banshees. And oh my goodness, right? And we're still seeing very good numbers on the ladder. We're seeing very good numbers out of Korea in Masters and Grandmasters. And we're still seeing good numbers out of tournaments. So not 100% sure, but definitely not ready to go back on it yet. So far, it looks like it's working to us. You know, from what we're seeing from ladder play, from what we're seeing from tournament play, from what we're seeing out there, in terms of the actual stats, we're seeing more balanced tournaments now than we did before, right? Certainly before, we saw in many places around the world a lot of Terran dominance, 4 months. And we know this change is painful. We know this is a big change at this stage of the game. A 2-range increase is not trivial. That's a scary change to make at this stage of the game. But we felt like it was necessary, and we're starting to feel like it's looking pretty good. Again, open to being wrong, not ashamed. We'll step back in a minute, you know, when I see those 3 replays, or I see that tournament suddenly all Zerg, and the Terrans are in just destroyed, right? Like, and then I'll say, oh, okay, all right, there's no Terrans, you know, in any finals anymore, we're done, right? Or there's no Terrans in the top 8 anymore, I guess we're done. But that's not the stats we're seeing. We're still seeing the Terrans crack the top 8. We're still seeing, you know, matchups. We're still seeing, you know, final 3, Terran, Zerg, PROTOSS. So from our perspective, the balance is going extremely well. Well, again, for us, we'll see. You know, obviously that's where it's developed now, and maybe that's where it's going to stick. We do have Heart of the Swarm coming up, which may change that, you know, may alter that quite a bit. We don't consider StarCraft done. We've still got another expansion, and we believe we have legitimate holes in the game that we are filling to provide our players with more strategy. We don't feel like we're going to throw a bunch of garbage on a game and yay, it's got the units, right? We feel like we can do better by these races in Heart of the Swarm, and we think we can do that, and we think we're on the verge of doing that. We'll certainly see in the beta here very soon whether we've accomplished that. So that may break up some of those problems. And again, I don't know for sure exactly what the pros will decide at some point. You know, I was very surprised watching it the other day where I saw PROTOSS versus Terran, and it was all Battlecruiser Ghost, you know, until the Vortex took them all down. But I still felt like he was very close with that strat. You know, if his Yamatos had been in a little bit different position, if he'd been able to hit the mothership with those Yamatos instead of feeling like he had to burn them on.
Battlecruisers weren't all clumped.
If they weren't all clumped, if he got the EMP off. I mean, there's so many potential in that moment, and I feel like because of the nature of StarCraft, because everything has to be practiced so intensely, and because getting to that endgame scenario happens not all the time.
Yeah.
The ability to try new strats in that space is challenging. And I've seen players, I saw a game the other day with a bunch of Ravens and Seeker missiles against Zerg that I hadn't expected to see, that I was like, oh, well, there we go, that's something new. And it was a little bit sloppily executed, way better than I could have done it, but a little bit sloppily executed for them. And I thought, you know, if he had another couple of weeks with this, I'll bet that Terran player is going to be able to make that strategy really sing in a way that he didn't quite pull it off there. So I'm not quite convinced that the pros are done yet. I'm not quite convinced we've reached that steady state of, oh, they figured it out. It's over, right? Like, this is the best they'll ever be at this game. I feel like they have more room and they can continue to learn this game, especially when you talk about those crazy endgame scenarios where their ability to really practice those in a tournament environment is less just because you don't see them as often. So I feel like we've probably got years left of figuring out what's going on there, and I think Heart of the Swarm is gonna wreck it all. It's gonna come in and just do a ton of damage. So it'll be very exciting to see what happens when it comes out. Well, hey, absolutely. Thanks everybody for coming out to the NASL and watching these amazing matches. It's an absolute joy to have all of you as part of the Blizzard and StarCraft 2 community. Thank you very much.